The day bison graced your village was the most important day of your life. But for me, it was Tuesday.
Welcome to the Rated G for Gamers podcast, episode 372. Before we start the show, we want to thank all of our wonderful fans who have supported us. And if you want to show support for the Rated G Network, you can find us on patreon.com/Rated G for Gamers. You can also find us on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and Threads at Rated G for Gamers. And finally, please rate and review us on iTunes and Spotify. We appreciate all the love. I'm your host, Dave Rattino, and this is my co-host, Dan. The cream rises to the top. Robinson.
What's going on, man?
Dan. Oh, love it. Very, very, very special episode. We have returning guest on the show. Very excited about this. Patrick Hickey Jr., the voice of Wrestlequest, coming on later in the show, and so excited to have him back in the studio to talk.
Well, when this episode comes out, it's going to be the launch of the game, right?
That's right. This episode should be out Tuesday, which will coincide with the launch of Wrestlequest, which is awesome. I have been playing it since this is coming out Tuesday. I can maybe talk a little bit about my thoughts on Wrestlequest. We're going to get into all that later in the show. It's going to be a good time.
You get your and we don't. This is the few times I get to talk about wrestling, but Dave, you're wearing like a WrestleMania shirt right now.
Let's go, baby. Flair Savage,
Flair and
92.
Macho Man.
All right, you gotta vote Flair Savage in '92 on the cream of the crop ticket. All right.
I'm not gonna lie. I'm still mad at Vince McMahon. It should have been that WrestleMania. Should have been Flair Hogan. What everybody wanted. Flair Hogan.
Oh, it would have been amazing. Yeah.
I know. We had to wait like 25 years later, I think.
Yeah, right? When they were in their golden years of wrestling, the golden
They had old Hulk Hogan versus old Ric Flair on Monday Night Raw. Yeah.
It's fascinating. Yeah, fascinating stuff.
No, but before we get into the rest of the show, I want to say one thing. So I was in the city. I was in Manhattan today. I had to go for, I don't go to work. I work remotely, but I had to go, a client lunch. And since I'm in the city, I took advantage of being in the city. I went to the Nintendo store. And you remember when we went there for Tears of the Kingdom? Yeah, we found one of the guys in the line that waited in line with us outside for like 4 hours. He told us, "Hey, if you want those controllers that are like if you're a Nintendo Switch Online subscriber, you have access to buying those controllers, and they're always sold out. The N64 controllers sold out online. You can get it at the Nintendo store. So while I was there." Hey, you guys look at that N64 controller? He's like, yeah, of course. They have like a million in stock. And I'm like, why isn't this online? This doesn't make any sense. So I had to pick it up. And if you're looking at the video version of this episode, you can see right behind me, I got both controllers.
Well, wait, what's the difference?
Well, no, I already had one. I ordered one. I wanted to get two. They were sold out. They were sold out. It's still sold out online. So I brought an extra one. And since I was there, I brought an extra Genesis controller. You could see it right here. I brought an extra.
There it is. So there you go. One in the box and one to play with. Very nice.
Well, actually, I bought it because I had two SNES controllers and I have two NES controllers. Well, I call them Joy-Cons because they work on the Switch.
Yeah.
For two-player play. So if you ever come over and we're playing, two-player, any of the
I love it.
N64 games, I wanted to have two. I wanted two people to have the controller. So that's why I bought it.
I'm ever gonna say, yo, give me that N64 controller. I'm sorry. It was innovative for its time, but that is god.
Come on,
it does not help.
Come on, you want to play Smash Brothers, the original Smash Brothers together?
Not with that thing. Well,
the
actually, that's not that bad. Because wait, no. Smash does use the analog stick. Never mind. Yeah.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, no.
All right.
I'll use a Joy-Con before I use that.
Wow, that's a bold statement.
Joy-Con's a little harsh, but Pro Controller are better for sure.
Okay. All right. Well, GoldenEye. Come on, GoldenEye night, right? Playing the original GoldenEye.
I mean,
the way we used to back back in the day, late 90s, early 2000s.
It was super
college.
innovative. It was monumental for its time. First real successful commercial controller with an analog stick. All right, I don't care about anybody else who came before. Nintendo really was the first one out the gate, followed by Sega, and then PlayStation a little bit afterwards with their DualShock controller. And that more or less became the de facto standard at that point in time, right? And that was basically the solidification of the modern controller, right? Everybody more or less followed the two-stick shoulder button design. It's pretty much where we're at, and we just made slight improvements to it over time. So I will definitely take that controller layout. Offset sticks. I like the way the Xbox does it. I like the offset sticks.
All right, Dave. We have an awesome show this week. Coming up, we're going to talk about a new Nintendo console coming out next year. All right. Well, it's heating up. Those talks are heating up. And a current gen game is going to last gen, which is kind of crazy to think about. But before we get into any of that stuff, let's begin the show with Metroid Dread. And you know what? We're going to give it its flowers because Metroid Dread is now officially the best-selling Metroid game of all time. It topped 3 million units sold. Which is kind of amazing to think that even Metroid Prime, right, didn't even sell 3 million. Didn't even crack that mark.
Yeah.
There've been so many good Metroid games. It's so mind-boggling to think that it's not one of the best-selling games for Nintendo, right?
Part of that reason is Japan, and especially Miyamoto, not a big fan, even though it's not his series, but he's not a big fan. Japanese gamers aren't necessarily a big fan, and I don't know why. Like, it's amazing. It's amazing. But it does real well in America. It does real well worldwide, with the exception of Japan. I think the GameCube, not a very popular selling console, right? So low install base.
It was third, right? Like I think even the original Xbox sold more than the GameCube.
I think it eventually usurped it. Yeah, for sure. Not to say the GameCube was bad by any means. I loved it. A lot of great games on there. Metroid Prime, amazing. Definitely the best in that Prime series, I think.
Arguably the best console generation: PS2, OG Xbox, GameCube.
Sure. Definitely up there.
Even for a little while, we had Dreamcast right behind it.
Yeah.
All right. It was the four big ones for like a year. It was like the four big console makers, and then it turned into just three.
Yeah. Oh, gone too soon. All right. Is that fair to say? Gone too soon.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wild. I can't wait for Metroid Prime 4. That I will bet money right now that will blast past the 3 million Dread units. Considering how many Switch consoles are out there, with the possibility, and we'll talk a little bit later, possibility of Switch 2 on the horizon. That could be a launch title for that system, could be a system seller, and it'll be in 3D, right? Not everybody's crazy about the 2D stuff, so I think it may even double that in sales.
Yeah, no, you're totally right. I think especially if it goes multi-platform, right? Like if it's on it's on the Switch and maybe whatever the next console
like
is,
a Zelda thing, yeah.
Yeah, because people, especially collectors like us, we're
gonna get both.
We're gonna get both, 100%. I definitely would get both, especially if it was ported to the next gen, right? Because it originally started on. It originally started on the Switch. Development started on the Switch, and then it would be ported to the next console using those special features, whatever they may be.
Could be.
I would buy both.
Could be the last game on the original Nintendo Switch. It's possible.
Yeah. I don't think so. I don't think so.
No.
I think there's still. I mean, maybe the last Nintendo game on the Switch. But I don't think it's gonna be the last game. I think because the Switch is so popular with indies and stuff like that. I think there would still be games put out on Switch.
Yeah.
Especially if the next console is like a Wii U type console, which I don't think it will be. But let's just say if they get stuck in that Wii U cycle, Switch and Switch U, right? Which I'm gonna bring it up later, but we'll see. We'll see how that works out.
Okay.
But talking about console exclusives. There was a console exclusive to the Xbox. It's now coming to the PlayStation, and that is the single player comedic sci-fi shooter High on Life.
Yeah.
I almost said Hi-Fi Rush.
Different
Almost said Rush. I almost said Hi-Fi Rush. High on Life. Awesome game. I loved it. I like the humor of it. Wish there was a physical limited run if you're listening.
The game is good. I wouldn't say it's great. I thought it was good.
I loved it. Mm-hmm. I loved it. I thought that I love the humor and I love the wackiness of the gameplay. I mean, it's Doom with my gun cracking jokes at the same time, right? Like,
yeah.
That's essentially what it is. It's out now. It had no lead up. It was just like, hey, yeah, if you want it, $59.99 is on PS4, PS5,
right?
On a digital only.
That's because it's such a good gaming year. There's way too much stuff out. It just gets lost in the shuffle.
Just lost in the shuffle.
Yeah. Wow, wild. All right, well, there you go. You got one. Got one for the PlayStation fans.
Well, Dave. Well, and it actually works vice versa because this month, I think it's this month, Stray comes out for the Xbox, and that was
there you go. It's a little like tit for tat. Yeah.
All right, Dave. As we always try to start the show but epically fail. What have you been playing?
I've been playing Wrestlequest, Dan. All right. I mean, I said it. I said it before. I did get a review copy of that, so I was able to kind of play that a little bit. Now the NDA, by the time this comes out, the NDA is going to be lifted, so I can kind of talk a little bit more about it. It is really great so far. I don't want to spoil anything, but there is dueling storylines that you play. Okay. So you play as Muchacho Man, which if you watch any of the promo stuff or the trailers or the whatever, you know about Randy Santos, Muchacho Man, who is in love with Macho Man Randy Savage as a wrestler, kind of looks up to him as like his role model, and he wants to become the greatest in the land. So it's like his RPG hero's journey on like getting to that point, which is awesome. And then spliced into that as well is you see some people more on the like industry side, and there's kind of like a Vince McMahon type with like two sons who are company men, and they're there to like toe the line. I haven't really seen too much of their story, but it's like kind of cool. So you get to play like both sides. I'm curious to see how that like turns out at the end of the day, but. You do get a lot of partners and whatever else that you can team up with, so you can do a lot of cool stuff. I don't want to get too much into it, but right now I'm having a blast. Love the game. We're gonna obviously talk more about it with Patrick and whatnot. So so far, 2 thumbs up, man.
Okay.
All right. Well, how about you?
So I've been playing a little game from Disney, Disney's Illusion Island.
Yeah,
on the Switch. I think this
talked about it last week.
I think this was exclusive on the Switch.
I think it may be,
I gotta say, this may be my sleeper hit of the year. Another sleeper hit of the year.
Wow,
this is creeping up. One of the best games of the year for me. This is a Metroidvania style side-scrolling
Disney
game with Disney characters. And here's the catch. There's no offense. You can't attack anyone. At least so far in the game for me. You can't attack anyone. You can only jump over or evade them. Yeah, that's crazy.
I wonder if that was something that was imposed on by Disney. If in fact that goes through the whole entire game, I wonder if Disney's like, we don't want you to get combative with our IP. Like get them into like fisticuffs and all that. It's possible, It's possible Disney said, hey, we want it to be like, G-rated or whatever, violence free or more or less.
No, this game is fantastic.
Wow, even without the combat. Okay.
Even without the combat. Because it's so like, I know I can get here. You have to keep looking at the map, basically. Right? Because the map will tell you, they'll have a flag on the map and say you have to go here. But it's all dark, so you don't know like how to get there. So as you traverse and try to get there, you have to keep looking at the map. It's like, oh, okay, there's no way I can get. I know I can't get over here. There's something I can't do yet to get me over here, so I have to figure out the backtrack and go around. and it's so cool. The map is so cool, and thank God they have fast travel in the game.
That's
I think
key.
I've
That's key.
I don't know. I mean, it's not everywhere. It's only in certain parts, right? But I don't know. I don't even know how long I've been playing. I feel like I've been playing forever, but I bet you it's only been like 6 hours. I don't know how long the game is. I feel like I'm almost there because there's certain areas where I'm like, oh, okay, I can break this wall, or I can break this ceiling, or I can jump this high. I know, so I'm starting to be able to do the things and get to places where I couldn't do before. But the game is so interesting. Story, not so much. Hasn't captured me. And there's no voice acting in the game. You have to actually, it's like an RPG. You got to read. But the story, I'll be honest, I have no idea why I'm doing what I'm doing. Because it was one of those. It was one of those when I started it. It was just me. All right, let me just play it a little bit and see how it is. And now it's the gameplay has captured me, and not the story, which is rare for games for me, because usually the story that brings me in.
That's most Metroidvanias. The story takes a backseat to the exploration and the gameplay.
Yeah. So I'll be honest. Since I skipped a lot of the story in the beginning, I know I'm like trapped on some island or something, and then I got to help these people because they told me to come here. I know a little bit about it, but since I skipped a lot of the major stuff of why I'm
that's
here,
not you. You're mashing it.
I know.
Trying to get to the action.
I did. That was me.
Terrible,
because I did all of that, I just said, you know what? Screw it. I have it on mute. It's just I
wonder
keep
why you
skipping
don't
all
know
the
what the
cutscenes.
story is. You didn't engage.
Well,
with
because I skipped all the major stuff in the beginning of the game, and trust me, in
now
the beginning
it's
of the game,
like, you can't go back.
in the beginning of the game, it's so much heavy dialogue as far as like in cutscenes of why you're here. I don't want to, it's like, all right, I might as well just skip it all. I don't know why I'm here. I don't know what I'm doing. I know they sent for me and I came, all the Disney characters came, Goofy, Donald Duck, Minnie, and Mickey Mouse. And I play as Mickey Mouse. You could play as any of the four, by the way.
Okay.
And I love, and they all have like little animations to do certain things. So like if you want to wall jump, Mickey has like a pencil that he like hits on a wall to jump over here, right?
Nice.
Like they all have like the little different quirks.
Yeah.
So I love the game. I love the game, and it's the gameplay that's sucked me in. And it's just like Axiom Verge, right? Story was minimal. I did read some of that story. At the time I did read it, I forgot, but it was mostly the gameplay that got me in, not the story of Axiom Verge.
I thought the story
level
in
design.
that, as minimal as it was, like really was like, I'm like, what the hell is going on?
Yeah.
I gotta beat that game and play 2.
Sleeper hit of the year. This year is turning out to be really good. You were right. This is turning out to be a really good year.
Thank you. Now,
you know what? A broken clock is right twice a day. So, Dave, this is.
I've been trying to tell you,
moment.
Dan. Jeez. Now, is this game of the year potential, or maybe
This could be some recency bias, but yeah, I would nominate it as a sleeper hit. It wouldn't win.
Yeah.
It wouldn't beat Zelda, but I would nominate it.
Okay.
The way I'm feeling right now, it may be nominated for Game of the Year.
All right.
We may have to change and do our top 20 games of the year.
Jesus. Yeah, I know. Yeah. There's just too many good things to pick from.
All right. With that said, well, we take a break. When we come back, we're getting to the top gaming news of last week. And we're back. All right, Dave, let's talk about the top gaming news of last week. And we have to start with this report from VGC.
We have to.
That Nintendo's, yes, we have to. Because
No. I'm being 100% serious. Yeah.
Because Nintendo's next gen console may be coming out next year if this report is accurate. So certain devs have reported that they have dev kits for the next console, right? And the next console will have some type of portable hybrid mode, just like the Switch. We'll have an LCD screen instead of an OLED screen to bring down the cost. Have a cartridge slot, but what type of cartridge slot is unknown, and it would be coming out the second half of 2024. So I'll just say the holiday of 2024.
This is according to reports. Yeah.
Yes, according to VGC.
Right. Which, honestly, if you were to ask me, I would have come up with most of this stuff on my own too. And I think that's what a lot of the critics are saying of like, well, you don't know, nobody knows. Everybody's been saying for the last 3 years there's going to be a pro model or a new model or whatever. But you know what? We are 6, almost 7 years into the life cycle of the Nintendo Switch. And it already came out the gate, not that powerful. But it was so innovative and monumental and whatever, and you had Nintendo behind it. Nintendo made a lot of great games for it. I think it's time. I think it's time for a new console, in all sense of the word, right? They need to get or continue to have third-party support, and it's becoming harder and harder to port the games over to this console, right? You got to make a concerted effort to say, yes, it's also coming to Switch.
Do you think it needs to be a minimum spec to the Steam Deck, or maybe a little bit more powerful to be sort of like future proof?
Well, it's
for the next 10 years, right?
It's never going to be future proof, but yeah, always. Yeah.
Well, I mean, when I say future proof, I mean, you don't want to put something out that's going to have the specs of something from like last year,
right?
Because you want to support it for the next 5 to 6 years, right? And you would want to make it, and then those parts, those parts would be cheaper eventually, where you can lower the price of the console, historically at least.
So I mean, yes, you do want it to be powerful. The Steam Deck would be amazing, but also would be very expensive. Steam is able to do that, or Valve is able to do that, because of the Steam integration and because of its position in the industry and how it was able to work with developers to make custom profiles that would be custom made for like the Steam Deck, right? You'd get a good mix of performance and battery life and whatever else. They would do all these things behind the scenes, and games that were certified for Steam Deck would just work, like a Doom Eternal, or even like Cyberpunk to some extent, like works on a Steam Deck, which is like amazing. And it's only $400 for the base model, and you really get a lot for your money with that. I don't know if Nintendo can necessarily do that. They're in a little bit of a different position. They were in a good spot when they put it out initially because of their partnership with NVIDIA and using the Tegra chip, which is a very specific chip that's very power efficient in terms of like battery usage and all that, overall wattage. And it's, it's kind of like an ARM chip. It's like a mobile-ish kind of chip. It's a chip like you could put in a cell phone, essentially, if you wanted to, right? It's different than like the super big, beefy, GeForce 4090 graphics cards, or the chips that are in the PlayStation and the Xbox, because they don't have to worry about power consumption necessarily, because it's unlimited. It's just coming out the wall. Like, you'll pay for it on your like electric bill, but it's never going to die. There's no battery with it. So they can kind of like push things a little bit more. And they're bigger systems. They can have better cooling and whatnot. Switch is very tiny. So all these things need to factor in. It needs to be double the power of the Switch, obviously, if not even a little bit more. That's probably what they're going to hit. In terms of storage, I mean, right now, I think the Switch has 32 or 64 gigs of internal storage.
Which isn't enough.
Well, it's not, considering like
not at all.
Your average Call of Duty is over 100 gigs.
And now we know Call of Duty, and we know Call of Duty is going to be on the console now, right? So.
Right, exactly. So you gotta have at least 100 gigs, if not more. But you also got to keep the cost down, so they got to kind of do that dance. Which they are, even if it's not coming out next year, they are still hard at work on the R&D for it. And they've been for a good couple of years. I mean, I think, honestly, you almost start speccing out the next console after your first one just launches. I feel like that's how it goes, right? You kind of get an idea of like, hey, you get a small team and figure it out.
I think Sean Layton, I could be wrong about who said this, but I remember hearing back when we first started the show, like they usually start R&D on the next console 2 years after the launch of the current console.
Sure. Because you get a good idea of like the features that work and don't work. You get a good read on where the industry is going, where the tech is going a little bit, because your last console was already a couple years behind because of when you started building that one, right? And however long it takes to put that together. So, it's very interesting. Nintendo made good bets with the Switch, I think, and their revisions have been pretty good. But it's becoming harder and harder. Like, just take a look at not Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom. It's a great game, but the performance is kind of dog shit. It's not good.
Wow.
It's not good. Why? Do you think it's like a smooth 60 frames? It barely hits 30 most of the time.
I know. I guess maybe because of the gameplay, it takes me out of it. Like those hiccups, I don't even notice it. Because it's that doesn't make the biggest difference to me as a gamer, right? Like it doesn't have to be the smoothest, frame rate. I mean, it doesn't need to be hiccups. It needs to be playable, but it doesn't need to be the smoothest frame rate. It doesn't need to be the crisp graphics that everybody touts. I mean, look at, we're going to talk about this later on. I mean, Star Wars Jedi Survivor, people keep dogging it because it's buggy. It is playable. People act like it's not playable. It is very much so playable.
Given, I mean, one, I'll say, if the gameplay of Tears of the Kingdom wasn't a 10, you would be complaining more about all that stuff, because I haven't seen many reviews make the performance a focus. They'll mention it for sure, but the main focus is all the cool things you can do in the game, the innovative gameplay, all the new stuff. There's a lot to praise about it, and I'm not saying it's not a 10. It is very much a 10, but it's a 10 with some caveats.
Okay, let me ask you. Bringing it back to the story.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think the next console will have the Switch name on it? Or do you think they would try to avoid a Wii and Wii U situation by naming it something totally different to distinguish it as its own thing?
I mean, I think calling it Switch 2 wouldn't be that confusing, but I don't think they're going to do that. The Wii and the Wii U is the only time Nintendo... I mean, I guess you could maybe argue Nintendo, Super Nintendo.
Yeah, I would argue that, but because it's Super Nintendo.
But nobody was confused by it. Everyone was confused by the Wii U, and I think that was maybe more the marketing and maybe. I mean, it was a dog shit name. The Wii I thought was great, but don't call it the Wii U. And then you marketed it. You were heavy on the gamepad, and everyone thought it was just a gamepad accessory for the Wii.
Well, you know what else? You know what else didn't help? That the Wii U looked almost identical to the Wii.
Well, there's that too.
The form factor wasn't totally off from the way the Wii looked, right? So they could have made it look even. They could have made that form factor look totally different in a different way.
I guess,
to sort of distinguish it from the Wii.
I guess it depends on the direction they're going to go with the console, right? I think it's a safe bet to say it's going to be another hybrid console.
Yes.
And then in that case, because they called it the Switch because you can switch the console into like a home console, and it was brilliant, and even the logo and all the marketing, like it all tied in. They did an amazing job with that. They could just call it the Switch 2, and I think that would be fine.
This is what. Oh,
jeez!
I did it again, Dave. I did it. No, I did it. I did it again. I did it again. Listen, I should be. I don't know why someone hasn't hired me yet. Nintendo, you need to hire me. This just comes easy.
Nintendo, are you listening? This guy right here
comes easy.
He's got the ideas.
This is what we're going to do. We're going to call it. We're going to call it. We're going to call it the Switch with 2 eyes, and that will indicate the 2. It's 2. It's called the Switch, and it's the 2 eyes indicate 2.
Is that
because it's the second one?
Is that also because Mario's Italian? Is that how that factors into?
You know, I didn't think about it. But this all writes itself now, right? I didn't think about it. That's a good point. See, you contribute. You're contributing. See,
I'm sorry. Next week, guys, we're gonna have a brand new co-host on the show. Sorry, Dan is This is gonna be Dan's last episode. That's terrible.
The Switch 2. There you go. It's the Switch 2 with the two eyes. No, so in the middle, you spell the Switch. You just have two eyes, right? And then you can have Mario hold up the two fingers, the peace sign, as you zoom out of the Switch, and it's his two fingers.
All right.
It writes itself.
Honestly, what do you think the new console's going to be called? Because that is not your answer. You think they're going to do a new name, or
they're going to do a new name?
Yeah,
I think they're going to do a new name. I don't think they're going to. I think they're going to call it something totally different.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, you know what? Because they're so unique. Because nobody knew about the Wii when they first announced the Wii. Right? People hated it. They thought it was stupid.
It was originally the Nintendo Revolution, and it was very much a revolution. That was their code name for it. Yeah.
And then Dolphin and then GameCube because it was a cube. So whatever it does, or whatever it looks like, or whatever it does is what they're going to name. The gimmick is they're going to name it similar to that. So I can't even make something up because I have no idea what they would do. But I would ask you this: what's one feature that the Switch doesn't have that you want the Switch 2 to have?
God, software wise or hardware wise?
Either one. Pick one.
Well, one, you need to be able to swap your profiles easy enough. They have to have voice chat. They have to have a much better OS, a much better UI. It's all terrible. You need to be able to make your own folders. Just
okay.
They have to have features that are table stakes that Xbox and PlayStation have had since the days of the 360. You need to be able to customize.
So I asked, so Dave, so that's your shot in the dark answer of me asking for a Vita 2. What do you think what do you really want? What do you think they're really going to do in the Switch? Seriously.
All those things I really want. And I think they will do everything but the voice chat.
They still won't they won't do voice chat.
Because they're such a kid-friendly thing and they don't want to deal with any of the heat. And everything they've done so far, like the little squid adapter attachment thing to you had to hook your phone up to this splitter or combiner, which would hook up to your headphones so you get the sound coming out of the Switch when you're playing Splatoon, and then you get the voice chat coming out of a separate app, which is on your phone. If you're gonna do all that to try and get voice chat enabled, just build it into your damn system. And you need to be able to find a friend. I need better search options for friend finding, because this whole here's my friend code, which is cool and all, but you should just be able to search for a person, And if you're worried about parental controls during the setup process, do the thing you did on the Switch with Bowser and baby Bowser. And they had a whole explainer video and how to set it up and this and that. Put all those things in there. Do a hand-holding tutorial for your parents, even though it shouldn't be hard because they're all gamers anyway. But make it real easy so when your kid gets it, it's set up in the way that you're comfortable with them using it. And if it's a lockout of voice chat, that's fine. If it's whatever the settings are, you can control that.
All right. So I have three things.
Okay.
I'm not saying that this is going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'm not saying this is going to happen, but I have three ideas. One, it could be sort of like a 3DS where it's like a Switch clamshell. All right.
Sure. With the two screens,
Switch, a two screen. It may even be a bigger screen. I would want a bigger screen than this. This is, more longer. I would kind of want it to be a little bit more bigger, especially if it's not going to be OLED. Maybe make the screen a little bit bigger than this. And then this, they may be, this is something that they could do. I mean, they tried it with Miiverse, but they're going to create their own sort of Twitch stream for kids that want to, share with friends and stuff like that online and doing videos that would be more heavily controlled by them and not like a third party like Twitch, right? Right. That's why they don't have the Twitch app on. You can't. They don't even have Netflix on the Switch, which is weird because the Netflix. I mean, I don't know if it first came to the Wii, but it definitely came to the Wii.
It did. It was the first console that had it. Yeah, you had to get the disc.
Yeah,
yeah.
Yeah, you had to get the disc. So I don't understand why it doesn't even have Netflix. It only has YouTube.
And Netflix has a kids mode. There's Netflix Kids. Yeah, it's weird. It's weird.
But Twitch, I don't think they'll ever do Twitch, but maybe they'll do something similar. They will have their own version of Twitch, right? And they got rid of the Miiverse, large part because people were posting inappropriate things.
Well, because you could just see that's the whole thing. Nintendo's like, see, we told you, people were going to abuse it, but I mean.
Well, maybe they put some parameters in place to stop that from happening, or have it taken down. Much quicker, right? Like,
I mean, we have AI now. They could certainly use AI to scan the photos and.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Percentage accuracy of this looking like a human body part, and if it's over like 80%, they go, we can't post this.
Yeah. Or any post needs to go through approval through AI, maybe. Oh, right? Yeah. Like it doesn't post right away.
Right.
Okay. Well. All of this said, how much you think it's going to cost? How much you think it's going to cost? Because that's based on the features that it's going to have. And if it has and keep in mind, it has a cartridge slot, right? So we don't know if it will be the same carts as the Switch. We don't even know if it will be backwards compatible. And I will say this, there are reports, this isn't anything, I don't think this was VGC, this came from somewhere else, that third-party developers don't want it to be backwards compatible because they want to sell you the remastered or the remake version of a game. They want to sell you the game again.
Yeah.
Right. So they don't want it to be backwards compatible. So
that's a feature that's specifically for consumers. Yeah.
Yeah. So
consumers and like Nintendo's happy about it because you get a built-in library of games you can just play, which is cool. But third-party developers, they're like, no, we want you to buy the. We want you to buy the
game.
Switch, the Switch 2 version. Yeah.
You know what they could do, and I know I was going to end this segment, but this just popped into my head. They could do. I mean, they could be crazy enough to sort of do like what PlayStation's going to do and have like a streaming handheld, right? That's tethered to the PS5. Maybe they'll have something to where they make the handheld itself like sort of like a digital thing and have it, where you can have a base that you plug to your TV. That's where you could put the physical games in or something along those lines where you can sort of stream it. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you would certainly reduce some extra parts and, connectors and whatever else, like for sure. Yeah. I mean, the other reason I don't think it's going to be backwards compatible because it would need to be the same chip architecture. It would need to be based off the Tegra architecture, for which I don't think NVIDIA is doing that anymore. They had a couple newer versions of that chip, I think, but that was many years ago. I don't think they're supporting it anymore. They're all into AI now. They're like putting all their chips into AI. So that's another thing too. If it's a vastly different chip, they're not going to go the way of emulation, right? The reason the DS and the 3DS were able to be the backwards compatible, have that backwards compatibility is I think they were very similar architecture, right? The reason the Wii and the GameCube, very similar architecture. So they were able to just you could just pop in your GameCube disc and it's good, They didn't have to do a lot to make that happen.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, I do know the cost is going to be the major thing in this. And I think consoles have gone up in price, incrementally, notwithstanding the PS3's debacle because they made that backwards compatible for 2 other generations.
Yeah, they did. Right?
Yeah. So
PS2.
That's one of their, it had all the chipsets for the original PS1, PS2, right? So that's one of the reasons why that was so expensive for the time.
And it had a Blu-ray player in there too.
And it had a Blu-ray player. Yeah.
Wild.
So if the Switch is, how much is a Switch right now? An OLED. How much is an OLED Switch?
OLED is $350, I believe. The base model, the regular model is $300, and the Switch Lite is $200.
So I think whatever the new console is, the Switch it's going to be $400, $399.
350 to 400. Yeah, I'm with you. I'm right in that ballpark too. Yeah.
Yeah, and the features better be. I think the feature. I'm so curious now. Like, I know we're always curious with PlayStation and Xbox, but with those guys, it's always more power, more power, more power, more power. I am so curious about what the next Nintendo thing, unique Nintendo thing they're gonna do.
Same.
To stand out from the rest.
Same. Yeah.
So, all right, let's move on. Speaking of Xbox, and talking about sort of having what does Xbox lack? And they lacked for a long time
support.
games.
Yeah.
They lack games.
Exclusives.
All right. So this comes from the Final Fantasy Fan Fest keynote, which I didn't even know there was a Final Fantasy Fan Fest. I guess it's a fan fest for everything.
How do you not know this? I'm very upset.
Because there's only 2 Final Fantasy games I like, and 3 of them that I played. So Final Fantasy XIV will be coming to the Series S and X and feature faster loading times, 4K resolution, in 4K resolution for the Series X. And it's coming in spring of 2024. It would be a digital-only release.
Yeah, that's not surprising. And it's not surprising it took so long for 14 to get to Xbox. Because this is the MMO. This is their second MMO. Final Fantasy XI was the first one, which eventually came to 360, I believe. That took a while, but it was on PS2 and PC. PC was definitely the way to play. With 14, I think the console experience is pretty good. I'd still say PC is the way to go. But, this is good. You may say it's a little too late. I would say no. Final Fantasy XIV community is still very strong. They had a very rocky start. I don't know if you remember when that first came out.
No, I didn't.
Oh, it did terrible.
I paid no attention to Final Fantasy after Final Fantasy IX.
It did so terrible that I thought it was going to get canceled and dropped, but they went back to the drawing board and overhauled essentially the whole entire game and redid it and fixed all of the problems, and then it was amazing. And fans were like, this is the game that we wanted. And then now there's like several expansions out for it. So, and the community's still pretty strong with it. Right.
Well, let me ask you a question. It's on PC, I'm assuming, right? Because it's MMO. It's on PlayStation consoles, right? I guess it came out when did this come out? During the PS3 era?
Came out after 13, which 13 was like 09, 010 maybe. So maybe this was either between 2011 and 2013, I think. Maybe even as far as 2014.
Okay. What this didn't have a physical edition, did it?
Oh yeah.
It did? Okay.
For PC it did. I think for console too. Yeah, I think so. I'm pretty sure.
Oh, okay. I mean, but people readily now enjoy this game. It has a big community. I know there's another 2010. There's another expansion that they're working on that's going to come out. They did promise. It was a little awkward. I don't know if you've seen the keynote. It was a little awkward to see Phil Spencer on stage, and they had this awkward hug.
Oh.
It just seemed a little weird. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not into making memes, but if I was a meme maker, I would have made a meme where Phil Spencer's on stage and everybody is like, please help us. We need help.
Oh, Jesus.
He's holding us hostage. It was just so awkward and so weird. But I'm happy that Xbox gamers get to play Final Fantasy XIV. So 16 exclusive. Don't think it's a timed exclusive because from all accounts, no one's ever said it was a timed exclusive. The Final Fantasy VII remakes are also exclusives. But I will say this. After the acquisition of Activision Blizzard go through, it's heavily speculated that Sony will buy Square Enix next. That would be a weird thing to have a PlayStation now a PlayStation MMO playable on Xbox.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think the kind of time of the exclusive is starting to come to an end. I mean, there still are some you can only get these on this console, but I feel like that's an end of an era.
I don't know if that's going to be the end necessarily. Listen, we when we first started the show, one of the jokes we had on here, we haven't actually talked about it lately, maybe over 100 episodes, but we used to say it all the time. We need Sony to actually make Sony to make the console, Xbox to do Microsoft to do the UI, and Nintendo makes the games.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right. Then we have the perfect Frankenstein console.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
What they do best. We take elements of what everybody does best and put them into one.
Right.
And then we just have one console.
That'd be amazing. That'd be amazing.
That would be amazing.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Last story.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't find anything to end on sort of like a funny note, but this story I thought was interesting. Star Wars Jedi Survivor was a current gen only game when it came out, PS5, Xbox Series X, but EA has said the sales of this didn't meet expectations, even though if you look at the numbers that it sold, I don't have it in front of me. That's my mistake. Totally should have had it in front of me, but the numbers apparently they sold more than the last game, but they expected it to sell more. So what they're going to do is port it to last generation, Xbox One and PS4. Now they just started that, so it's not something that's going to come out like this year or anything. So let's give it until maybe the holidays of 2024 when the next Switch comes out or next Nintendo console comes out. All right. Will it even be worth it to port it to last gen at that point? Because think about it. If they're disappointed in the sales, and maybe because people didn't upgrade yet, maybe it's still, I'm sure they have the data of how many PS4 users and Xbox One users that are still active right now. Usually, now it's readily in stock, and it's been readily in stock for like the last year, right? Year and a half. Mm-hmm. You think console sales do go up during the holidays, especially if there are any discounts or bundles? Those gamers that they want to reach, maybe current gen gamers, about time this game actually comes out.
If they can meet the demand for the holiday season, which I think they may be able to.
I think they can. So this could be just a waste of time because those PS4 users may be turning to PS5 users about time this game comes out. And this will be the inferior game to that PS5. And by the way, the PS5 and Xbox Series X versions be half off at that point. Right? Well, they won't be $70. They'll be like $29 or $39.99.
Well, maybe. I mean, if you're going to have a previous gen version, the previous gen version can't be more than the current gen version because it's obviously it's a more powerful game.
Well, I'm saying the current gen versions, about time when this game comes out, let's just say, for argument's sake, late of 2024, current gen versions of a game that came out in April of 2023 will be like $29.99 or $39.99.
Oh, I think they're gonna wait on that price drop because of the previous gen version. Because then that game's gonna be like $20.
Yeah, that game is gonna have to be like $20, $30. It has to be at least the same price.
Well, obviously, like they have data, they have analytics on all this stuff, and I get where they're coming from that they didn't meet sales numbers because they have a budget for the game. They have a marketing budget, they have a development budget, and they give the company that budget to do both marketing and development with the expectation of we're going to sell this many units. If a game has microtransactions or has like planned DLC, that also gets kind of factored into the budgets, right? They're like, well, we can safely estimate that we'll make this much off the DLC and this much off the microtransactions. That all kind of factors in. So I get when they say they didn't meet their budget numbers. They didn't meet the sales numbers or whatever. By that same token, there has to be data that says, there's still a lot of PS4 and Xbox One owners, which there has to be, right? Yeah. But
so this game has sold over 1 million copies physical.
Yeah.
Apparently.
Yeah.
According to gamingindustry.biz.
Right.
So that's just physical. That. So it could have sold probably even double that, 2 million, let's say, right?
Right.
Because we know we're going towards the all digital future, and a lot of people like it digitally.
Right.
So
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to get
and
digital
this
numbers on top of the physicals. It's always physical sales chart numbers that we
and
get.
this game is slightly glitchy, and a lot of people play it on the PC because they can up their specs so they can get around a lot of those glitches. So you definitely can't even count. There's no physical for PC anymore.
Well, that's the other thing too, is they've built this game with current gen in mind.
Correct.
So, maybe at one point they were speccing previous gen and then moved to current gen, but at the end of the day, the final leg of development was on current gen consoles, and they were targeting current gen specs. It's not that easy to go and take your game and try and retrofit it to an older console, right? That's why a lot of games don't come out on the Switch, because it's lower hardware, it's lower powered hardware, it's a completely different architecture. Thankfully, the Xbox, both generations of the One and the Series and the PS4 and 5 have the same architecture, so it's not as bad, but you're dealing with like much lower specs. That's not incredibly easy to do for a game that already has performance issues, so you got to factor that in.
Well, put it this way: if they're going to do it for the PS4 or Xbox One, why even do that? Why don't you just put it on the Switch? Just make a Switch version of it.
I mean,
put it on the Switch,
ideally that would be the better way to go about it, I think, right? Put it on the console where there's like, I don't know how many units are out there, but there's a ton.
Over 100 million units.
And that's a whole untapped market, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just do that. That's what they should do.
Yeah.
Well,
so we'll see. We'll see how this comes out. I'm really curious to see what the performance is of it.
By the way, fantastic game on a Dave scale.
Mm-hmm.
Fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Just like Breath of the Wild, right? Like, I'm not saying this is, on a scale of Breath of the Wild, but
Tears of the Kingdom or Breath of the Wild?
Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild definitely has their own like technical issues, but because of the gameplay, we excuse it.
Right.
I say the same thing for Star Wars Jedi Survivor.
Mm-hmm.
Because of the gameplay, and also because of the story,
mm-hmm.
I overlook some of the glitches. It doesn't take me out of the game, and it's still playable. I don't care what anybody says. Well, at least for me, it's been playable. Sure. I don't, and they said consoles is where it's acting up. I haven't got any major glitches in it.
They've also put out a ton of patches since the game launched too, so they've kind of they've addressed a lot of that stuff. I'm sure there's still some, but it's definitely a lot better than what it was. Yeah.
All right, why don't we take one more break, and when we come back, we're going to have our special guest, Patrick Hickey Jr., and we're going to talk all about Wrestlequest.
And we're back. Returning to the show, special guest on a very special day, Patrick Hickey Jr., star of the new video game Wrestlequest on all platforms, which is amazing.
And Netflix.
Yeah, you and the Turtles game, which is amazing. You were among the greats.
Yeah, man.
So
Hell yeah.
Not Stadia.
Happy to be back, guys.
Well,
not Stadia.
No.
Mm-hmm.
R.I.P. Happy to have you back. Congratulations are in order.
Pleasure.
When this this episode comes out, it'll be Tuesday, which is the launch of WrestleQuest. I have played the game, and it is pretty fantastic, I have to say.
Thank you very much, man. It means a ton.
Yeah. And I know we asked you a lot on the previous episode, how it was kind of getting involved in everything, and working with the guys from like Megacat and Skybound, and we kind of wanted to get we want to get your thoughts on I guess how kind of the game, where it's at now, and a little bit more behind the scenes, if maybe there's some questions that you can answer now that the game is out.
Sure.
Yeah,
man. It's been a ride. I mean, I've been on the team for almost 3 years now. So like the game was in development for like 4 and change. So playing it on Switch and seeing how far it's come from like that first day, and it's just like, especially when you're a voice actor, a lot of times like they'll place pieces of your voice in for like placeholder, you know, like for demos and this and that. And it's like, I would say 2.5 years ago, they did not have like a ring announcer for that opening scene in the game when Macho Man comes in, and I had just done ring announcing for Battle Club Pro, an independent wrestling promotion in Brooklyn, and I was like, guys, I could do that scene would be so much better if we had like a ring announcer. And they were like, oh, do it. And firing up the Switch for the first time and then being like, the next match is set for one fall, and I'm like it was just a really good, satisfying feeling, you know, like that was like one of the first pieces of audio that I did for Wrestlequest, and it survived the entire cycle, you know. So it was just like really fun moment as a voice actor. So that's great. Yeah, man.
And you're like you do Muchacho Man, right? You do the lead character. I think that's fair to say. And
Brink Logan, the other lead character, I do him as well. I'm trying to think of who else. Luchador, Green Gene. Like there's a ton of characters I do. Pretty much, I would say like 75% of the NPCs that I've encountered up until this point, like playing through the game, that I do the voices of, and yeah, man, so much fun.
Yeah,
so much fun.
It's like. I mean, the voice work so far is amazing, and it's like, you know, it's one thing. It's one thing as a fan to say like, I know that guy. It's another thing to play the game and I am that guy.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
Yeah, it's really cool. I'm still pretty early on so far, but I love, and I was a bit surprised of the intertwined stories. Or it seems like they're intertwined stories, because you get the one side from like the corporate CEO side, and like the two lackeys, which is awesome. You get to play a little bit of them, and then you go back to Muchacho Man, and I thought it was really cool that like he's very like innocent and wide-eyed about the industry, and you can see like early on. I don't think I'm spoiling anything, but how he doesn't know that the matches are staged necessarily.
Yeah,
and there's little like bits in there, and he's like, "What do you mean we have to practice what's going to happen in the thing?" He just thinks it just comes naturally.
It's so good. It's like it's so much fun. It reminds me almost. He's almost like Buzz Lightyear in Toy Story, you know, where it's just like Woody is like, "Bro, you're a toy," and he's like, "What? No, what's a toy? What are you talking about?" You know. So it's just like this game to me is just like. It's like 1 part Toy Story, 2 parts, like it's got some Pokemon in it. It's got some Paper Mario in it. It's got some Earthbound in it. It's got so much really, like the DNA of this game is just totally like love of 80s, 90s, and early 2000s pop culture. And like Zach Manco just did a fantastic job writing the dialogue for this game. And that's the thing when you think about it, an RPG for me is just like a great story, great music. Like you need those two, and I feel like the music is super underrated in WrestleQuest. Like I was playing with my daughter before, was laying on the couch, and she was laying next to me, and she was just like, "I really like the music in this scene." And she's 6, and for her to say that is like, yeah, like the music's pretty killer. So it's got all of those elements of what you want a good turn-based RPG to be. I was on a podcast yesterday, and the first thing one of these guys asked was, "What are the trophies like?"
Oh.
Because like he wants to get like platinum and stuff, and I'm so happy that you guys laughed, because I did the same exact thing. I'm like, bro, Final Fantasy VII didn't have trophies.
Yeah.
You know, Chrono Trigger didn't have trophies. Breath of Fire didn't have trophies. No. You know, you just played them. Yeah, you played them. You know, and I was just like, bro, put some headphones on. Lay on your couch and play this the way that we used to play RPGs back in the day. 45 minutes here, an hour there. Oh, it's raining out. I could play 3-4 hours today. You know, it's a 40+ hour RPG. Like they don't make 40+ hour RPGs with like sprite, you know, animations and stuff like that anymore. Like this game was like made for us. Yeah. Late 30s, early 40s gamers, wrestling fans, like this was made for us. And you're worrying about like trophies.
Yeah.
Stop. You know?
That's the least of it. There's so much more stuff in there.
Absolutely.
To kind of to speak about the old school RPG element, the level of customization I think is really cool. That They kind of walk you through all the tutorial stuff in the beginning, and then you get to do your own intros, and you can customize how that, and like that. I believe that plays into like how the matches go when you get into the big matches. Am I right about that?
Yeah, absolutely. Like you want to fill up that hype meter as much as possible before the match, so this way you can pull off big moves. But like if you screw up your entrance, or if you screw up the promo before, like that could have an adverse effect on the battling. It just makes every button. I feel like as much as I love Pokemon, I'm like a hardcore Pokemon fan. There have been times, like especially with the older Pokemons, where you want to just get through and you're just tapping A, like quick attack, hyper beam, is it going to recharge, blah, blah, blah. And like when you're in a battle in WrestleQuest, every button press counts, the button presses change, you have to pay attention while you're battling, so it just makes the player like extra accountable, and I like that. So yeah.
Yeah, and it's like there's also like the team up attacks, which is really cool. I've gotten a couple of NPCs so far, and you can kind of, you get like, you're doing like a JRPG with the wrestling motif. I was getting some like Chrono Trigger vibes from it, because like different characters have like different power ups, different combo attacks, and that has the button press quick time event in some of those things too, which was like really cool. So you got to be on like your P's and Q's, and then it's satisfying. You get that like max damage, and then the guy just like drops, and it's like.
Yep.
It has.
You do everything right, and then you screw up the pinfall, like
well,
it's
I've been good.
It's fun.
I'm like 5 for 5 on pins right now. I'm good.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. There's gonna be times when they kick out 3 or 4 times, and you're just like, oh my god, and the matches get so much fun, So yeah, man.
What about finishing moves? Because in wrestling, that's a big thing. Like the big elbow drop, the Stone Cold Stunner.
Oh yeah, you could do them all, man.
Yeah,
Muchacho Man's got the big elbow. He does a south of the border stunner, like what's it called? Brink Logan does like an atomic drop, and like Stag Logan does a power bomb. Like they every wrestling move you could think of. Luchador has it's probably one of my favorite animations in the game. His Huracan Rana, like for a 2D sprite, is like so fluid. That's I'm pretty sure that's Zach Manco, the writer's like favorite character, Luchador, and I loved voicing him because he's like kind of like loosely inspired by like Antonio Banderas and like Puss in Boots. He's like the Luchador, and he's like, everything is for my niños, because he's very like Luchador, like everything's for his family and the legacy of his family and stuff. So it's just so being able to every like location, there's like a strong style location, there's a lucha location, there's a hardcore location. It's like, oh my god, it's for a wrestling fan, a geeky wrestling fan. It's paradise. Like literally, like when this podcast is over, I'm gonna go and play for like another 45 minutes, like just because it's just so much fun. And the save anywhere stuff is great too, so.
It's a good modern convenience with kind of the pastiche of the old school 80s and 90s RPGs.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
That was one of my favorite things with like Fallout 3 back in the day. It's just like save now, shut it off, blah blah blah. And it's like for an RPG to have that, it's like so cool.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Was there something that you were like, hey, when you were kind of like working with the Mega Cat guys in Skybound, was there anything that you're like, I think this would be awesome, or like, we got to get this in the game, like something that you thought would be like, kind of like crucial to like the game as a whole, or something that you thought that like this would be good?
So the thing is, like, the vibe with the Mega Cat guys is ridiculous. Like the creativity, and like whenever we're in the same room together, just like creative stuff happens. And like Zach Manco, the lead writer, is he's like a rapper, like an inadvertent rapper. Like he just makes things rhyme. Like, but it's not like bars. It's just like, if somebody comes and goes, oh, you need to buy that game at that booth there, they just slash the price, and then Zach will be like, I gotta get some cash, and then I'll be like slashing and cashing, and then he'll like stupid like stupid stuff like that back and forth to the point where like there's a character in the game that like says something similar to that. So it's just like we would just there'd be so many like little moments when we'd be having conversation on the Discord or in person where like those little like asides and moments got in. And like I have to say when I did voice work on the Padre, I was pretty much just like reading from a script, and it helped that I edited all the dialogue in the game, so I could like suggest additions to the dialogue to like smooth things out and stuff like that. Yeah. But like there would be times during like the Wrestlequest thing where they were like, this is what the character looks like, do something. This is what the character looks like, give us something, give us a voice. To the point where like we were talking about before we went live, there's a tag team, like the first tag team match in the game is like these two big brothers, and I just gave them this like really silly, stupid voice because I just looked at them and I said they just look really silly and stupid. And playing the game and you see them using that voice, it's just like, it's perfect. And the thing is like, the fact that like the Mega Cat people trusted me that much to like bring some of these characters to life, like I am completely in their debt, because it's just like, as a voice actor again too, like it's just like, oh, you just do what you're told. And you know, I mean, I've done voiceover for games where I've done 20, 30 characters and I wasn't even credited in the game. You know, like you go to like at the end of the game and you look at credits and they didn't even give me credit, and I'm like the voice of like 30 characters in the game, and it's just like it sucks. But it's just like these guys were the complete opposite. They just gave me so much freedom. They really trusted me. They used my wrestling knowledge. They used my video game knowledge. Like they made me feel like a member of the team. And I'm super proud of like the work that I put in with it.
Oh, it's great. I know the two characters you're talking about because the two guys from up north, and you faced them pretty early on. Definitely one of the highlights. Definitely one of the highlights so far. Hopefully those guys return because they're
around. They'll be around.
They are amazing. And the whole like up north humor and whatnot is like great too. That was like really cool to see. I guess something else I was kind of curious about too, because I mean, there's a lot of big people that are in this game, likenesses and whatever else. I mean, obviously you got the great Double J Jeff Jarrett as like a consultant, and he's also in the game. You got the rest in peace the GOAT, Macho Man. You got the likeness and the whatever else of him to be in the game, which is awesome. And like Jake the Snake and Coco Beware. It's amazing. Was there like what was kind of the process of like reaching out to try and get those people on? And I guess a secondary question is, was there someone that you guys really wanted to get but weren't able to necessarily, or yeah?
So what I can answer out of that comfortably is that the people behind the scenes at MegaCat saw this as an incredibly important passion project. They did their due diligence and reached out to so many wrestlers. And they spoke to the families of wrestlers that are no longer here. And they, like I said, all the stuff behind the scenes that these guys did to make these people feel comfortable enough to have their fathers, their grandfathers, their uncles that like, you know, in this game. And then they reached out to people that, you know, haven't been in the squared circle in quite some time, and that were like, oh, listen. And some of these people have been burned by other video game companies in the past, or, you know, didn't you know, really see like, you know, the fruits of the labor that they had put in the past. And like, it's just a testament to like just how much MegaCat cares about pro wrestling and the people that are involved. As far as people that got away, I don't think I'm the person to ask that question. But I will say that like there are plenty of wrestlers that would love to be featured in this game.
Sure.
That are not. And once it's, by the time this comes out on Tuesday, I'm sure that like the people at MegaCat and Skybound are going to be like, wow, this person said that they're interested in stuff, because it's just like, again,
right.
this This is so much more than a video game. This is a love letter to classic turn-based RPGs. This is a love letter to 80s and 90s pro wrestling. It's something that's like really special.
Yeah, it is. I mean,
Alexa is talking to me. I apologize. Alexa, off.
Oh, I've been there.
Alexa, off. There you go.
Well,
sorry about
well,
that.
you do know what that was about, right? Alexa was trying to tell you she should have been in the game.
Bitch.
I don't know if she has the voice of a wrestling superstar.
So funny.
Yeah.
Goddamn Alexa.
Oh no, it's
Amazon recording me.
So I haven't played the game yet. I'm definitely looking forward to playing the game, and your passion for it really gets me excited. And I'm not the biggest turn-based RPG type of fan, even though I do have my top 3 that I can play because story means a lot to me, and I'm a big wrestling fan. So I'm super interested in this, but I would love, I don't know if they're in the game or not, but I would love just a deep cut. I was a big Ted DiBiase fan growing up. Like I don't care what anybody says. He got that championship from Andre. So he is a one-time champion in my heart. In my heart. I know it's not on the books, but in my heart, he's a one-time champion. Sure. I would love to see him in the game, even if it's DLC or Wrestlequest 2. I don't even know if he's in this game, so I don't know. You keep that as a surprise. So
yeah, I'm gonna keep it as a surprise for you.
Okay.
But I will say that there are plenty of people that have crossed paths with Ted DiBiase in the game. So if he is in the game, it would make sense.
Okay.
So
it would be a $1 million dream if he was.
Yes, I will say too, since you love story, like my last video game book, The Minds Behind PlayStation 2 Games, is like 120,000. It's like 120,000 words. It's like 220 pages. The script for Wrestlequest is over 200,000 words.
Oh my god!
So if you like story, 40 plus hours of like, if you just follow the linear path of the game and you don't do side quests and stuff, you're talking it's a 40-hour RPG.
That's me.
So yeah, that's why I told the guy that's like, oh, does it have trophies? I'm like, bro, like, can I platinum it? I'm like,
too much.
Yeah. But yeah, if you're looking for story and you're looking for wrestling stuff, like, because that's the thing, it's like there's a scene early on where you're getting face paint for a wrestler that can't decide whether he wants to be a California surfer or a dark emo guy.
Oh, that's right.
And you'll be like, you'll be like, I know who this is. It's like, so if you love wrestling, it's like every single side quest, every single thing that's going on, it's just like draped with nostalgia. It's so much fun.
There's definitely a lot of wrestler alikes, I guess, or ones that like are like, oh, it's even like going back in the like the limited wrestling knowledge that I have. There's like, I was firmly in like the kind of 80s Saturday morning, like, the Hogan era, I guess, was my thing, and there's a lot of guys that I'm like, oh shoot, and it's
so it's like more so like a nod or homage to that wrestler.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. So it's just like you've got the 20 plus licensed wrestlers in there, but then you've got, hundreds of guys that are, inspired by or homages to maybe 2 or 3 separate guys, but then also too, you've got characters that are based off of, an action figure like line loosely, or like, it's like this, because the world in the game is just this big giant toy box. So it's just like they all coexist with each other, all of this 80s and 90s pop culture, all because like you guys remember when you were a little kid that like Lion-O and He-Man were like a tag team against like Demolition, or against like Andre and Ultimate Warrior and stuff like that. So it's just like that concept of how we used to play when we were a kid is very much a part of WrestleQuest.
Ninja Turtles versus
Ninja Turtles. Yeah, man. I used to have Police Academy figures wrestling Ninja Turtles and stuff like that. Like I used to have just ridiculous stuff going on.
They made Police Academy figures?
They did.
Yeah. Oh yep, I love them.
Oh, tell me you still have them. Do you have the Hightower action figure?
No, and I had the figures from the animated series too. Like
right.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's right. I forgot they did have an animated series. Wow,
Yep,
deep
I was
cut
having
right there.
I was having hardcore matches in the Ghostbuster house and stuff like that. You know, like it was.
Slap
I
her
was
up the
doing
top
Vic
rope. There you
Grimes,
go.
Vic Grimes off the top of the building way before New Jack was doing it. You know, so like, but that's very much a part of WrestleQuest.
Yeah.
So yeah, man.
For sure, for sure. Well, you mentioned the your book series, The Mind Behind the Games. We'd be remiss if we didn't talk about that a little bit. And you said that the PS2 version, or the Mind Behind the PS2 games, just came out. You want to talk a little bit about that and how that kind of came to be?
Yeah, man, that's the seventh book in the series. That's the last one. It came out like the end of March, the beginning of April. It's done really well. And rather than just like talk about it, like what I'm gonna do is I'll just read the table of contents to you really quick and just the names of the games.
Sure.
And you'll be like, yeah. So it's just like Ratchet and Clank, Indigo Prophecy, Psyops, Tekken Tag Tournament, Guitar Hero 3, Mr. Mosquito, Spider-Man, the movie, Spider-Man 2, Blood Omen 2, Sly Cooper and the Thievius Raccoonus,
Oh, yeah.
The Mark of Cry, Katamari Damacy, Dragon Rage, The Thing, EverQuest Online Adventures, War of the Monsters, SSX Tricky, Tony Hawk Downhill Jam, ATV Off-Road Fury, Downhill Domination, Red Card 2003, FIFA 05, FIFA Street, NHL 2002, Def Jam Vendetta, Madden 2003, NFL Game Day 2004, Rainbow Six, Ace Combat 4, Medal of Honor Frontline, SOCOM US Navy SEALs, Killzone, Dead to Rights, Call of Duty Finest Hour, Red Faction, Shadow of the Colossus, and iToy Play. So, I mean, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
You know, all of my other books, I have PS2 games in there as well. So it's just like a lot of people like, oh, well, you didn't have this one. And I'm like, well,
You got to read the other book.
I interviewed it. They're in the other books, you know? So it's like maybe one day I'll do like a remastered version and like compile everything. But like, that one was so much fun to like put together, you know, like finding out like the iToy was like such a bitch for Sony because like they wanted it to work and it was like so hard for them. And then like you have a game like Shadow of the Colossus that like Sony almost never released in the United States, and you have like the United States developer producer like went to Japan and like slept on floors in Japan like to show them that the US like market wanted it, and you know how important Tekken Tag was, and like like so many freaking great stories. Def Jam Vendetta, like what a hot mess during development that game was, but it turned out to be like super fun. It was a canceled WCW game,
Right.
Yeah.
Def Jam Vendetta,
Because it was
you know,
made by,
so like
made by Aki, or it used the Aki engine, right?
Yep, and according to the people at EA that I spoke to, Aki has never admitted that there's been a bug in any of their games ever. So imagine what it was like for EA to work with them.
Yeah. And then you have the Def Jam license on top of that, and all of the all the rapper personalities, right?
So funny quick side story. There was one assistant producer, some poor bastard, from EA, that it was his job to go to all of these rappers and try and get them to sign on to the game. And he's basically going to people's houses and knocking on the door and being like, "Hi, I'm from EA." No exaggeration. And he goes to DMX's house.
Right.
And DMX is like, what I'm going to do is I'm going to let these Rottweilers out. And if you make it out, then I'll be in your game, blah, 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 blah. And the guy's like, what? And DMX basically pulled a Mr. Burns and was like, release the hounds.
Oh my God.
And yeah, man, this poor guy went through so much to get these guys in the game. And they had no idea how it was going to do. And then it came out and it just turned out to be like they caught lightning in a bottle with those first two games. The third game we won't talk about. Yeah. So, but that was so much fun to do, and like you know, I'm not done with the minds behind the games books, but like writing 7 like 200-page books in like 5 years, I feel like I've kind of cornered the market.
Yeah.
And I've been having so much fun doing VO and running Legacy Comics that I'm just like I'm kind of like letting those books air, you know. Okay. And letting people like come to them, because like still every day people will message me and they'll go, "Oh, I just read the minds behind the games. I wish there was a sequel." And I'll just be like, "There's 6. There's 6 more." You know, so
yeah, we were actually just talking in the previous segment, just kind of talking about how that what was it, 7th generation, I guess, the PS2, Xbox, and GameCube era, possibly the greatest era of video games. You know.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
The introduction to DVDs, the hard drive storage, just the like the franchises that converted to 3D that were like actually good.
Yeah, man.
Just like a lot of amazing things to come out during that era. And two
When
of my favorite games that are in your book, SSX Tricky and Tekken Tag Tournament.
Come from that era.
So good. Yeah, man. It's like I moved into a new house about a month ago, and I finally like have all of my stuff set up. Like everything is set up, everything is playable from like the Atari 2600 to like the PS2, and I fired up the PS2. And the hard drive is still connected, and all of my saves are still there. And I'm just like,
Nice.
like it's just good times. Like to load up Tekken Tag and have all of the characters and have Tekken Bowling unlocked, and then just like it's just oh my god. So yeah, man, I'd agree. Between for me, it's like PS1, PS2, and Xbox 360. Like if I had to like those three home consoles for me, and then like I have to have a Game Boy like of some sort with me, because like I feel the Game Boy is just like iconic. But yeah, man, and that's one of the reasons why I love Wrestlequest so much, because I could totally see Wrestlequest working on like a PS2. I could see Wrestlequest like maybe not as pretty, but I could totally see it as a Super NES game. I could see it like on the shelf next to Earthbound, next to like Illusion of Gaia, next to like this, you know, and like just being able to hold its own in that realm. So
I could do one better. I could see Wrestlequest being on a Game Boy. You could port everything else was getting ported to the Game Boy. You could port it to the original Game Boy and being the green screen.
That's not out of the realm. I mean, I've seen. I guess they call them like remakes, right? They'll like take a game,
remakes,
put it backwards. I can
man.
see that, and there's definitely people out there who would be willing to put in the work to do that for sure. Yeah, that'd be awesome. That'd be awesome. So we do have a very important question to ask you before we let you go.
Sure.
We did ask you on the previous episode, and Dan knows, and you were correct in your answer, by the way. But we've asked you.
If you want to change your answer, you can. By the way,
the most important question: which game is the best of all time? Super Mario Bros. 3 or Super Mario World? And you defended your answer very admirably, I have to say. As quite well. So we're not going to rehash that, but in the celebration of WrestleQuest, curious to know what your top 3 wrestling matches are of all time in any of the federations. It could be the New Japan stuff. It could be Ring of Honor. It could be WWF, WCW. Curious.
I do have a side question on top of that. Your top 3 wrestlers to go along with that.
Of
all time.
Okay. Ooh, top 3 wrestlers is so hard. DDP is definitely my universal like number 1.
Let's go.
Diamond Dallas Page, that's. I've interviewed him. I watched him when I was a kid, and it goes into like my top 3 matches of all time. It was not Super Bowl. What was before Super Bowl? Oh my God! It was like WCW's version of WrestleMania.
Starrcade.
The name just complete. Starrcade. Thank you. It was Starrcade '98. DDP versus the Giant, and the Giant just beat the ever-loving piss out of DDP for like 20 minutes, and then at the end, Big Show, Giant, Paul White, whatever you want to call him, is setting up for like the avalanche choke slam off the top rope. And in midair, DDP counters into a diamond cutter and wins. And I was just like, I was 14 years old, and I was so upset the entire match because I'm just like, he's not going to win.
Right.
He's not going to win because he got screwed out of the U.S. title. Like the Giant chokeslammed him, and Bret Hart won the U.S. title. And I was just like, my guy was the U.S. champion. That was like the working man's championship in WCW. And he got screwed, but then it was just like he countered the chokeslam, and it was just like one of these like surreal moments for me. It was so much fun. So that would be one match. He should have ended the
streak, by the way. He should have ended Goldberg's streak.
That was an amazing Halloween Havoc 97. That was 98. I mean, that was a great match too. Yeah, and then I mean Goldberg basically concussed himself during that match. Like he speared DDP so hard he slammed his head into the ring mat. Yeah, DDP is definitely number one. The rest are like they change on a daily basis. But I will say like Christopher Daniels for me is definitely up there. Christopher Daniels, Samoa Joe, and AJ Styles. There was like a run of from like 2005 to 2007 where they were just having bangers on Impact like every night for the X Division title. The X Division title went from the three of them like back and forth, and like the three of them were so good. And it's just like I always felt like Joe got the respect and love that he deserved. AJ got the love and respect that he deserved. But like Christopher Daniels never got the WWE run. Like he was supposed to have a WCW run that got cut short because WCW went out of business. And it was just like Christopher Daniels is one of the like cleanest, most precise workers I've ever seen in my entire life. And like there's like a 30-minute Iron Man match with him and AJ Styles where like he wins the X Division title for like the first time. That's like one of my favorite matches of all time. So then Flair winning the Royal Rumble in 92. It's not that it's the greatest moment that I've ever seen. It's the fact that he stayed in the Royal Rumble the entire time.
Right.
And then the thing is the promo that he cut at the end, they don't cut promos like that anymore.
With a tear in his eye.
With a tear in his eye. And the thing is, he meant it. No one wrote that for him.
Yeah.
He meant every word that he said. And him holding that title after being like the NWA champion for as long as he was, like that was like him finally getting the credibility that he deserved. That's like a wonderful moment for me. And like, yeah, Flair, it's like DDP is one, Flair is like two, but then like, you know, I love Randy Savage. I wouldn't have done the voice in this game if I didn't love Randy Savage as much as I did. I've told Jake the Snake Roberts the reason why I am a college professor for 17 years is because of him. And he was like, what? When I said that to him. And I told him, because, you know, you've met me before. I'm 6'4". I'm 260 pounds. I'm a big guy. And during my job interview, this woman asked me, she said, well, if a student would get in your face, you know, like you're kind of a big guy, like how would you respond? And in my head, I'm like, did this woman just insinuate that she thinks that I would hit somebody? Like what? Stop. And it was just like in a microsecond,
Right.
a Jake Roberts promo came into my head, and I looked this woman dead in the face. And I said, my father told me a long time ago that if I ever have something important to say, I never have to raise my voice. And she went, oh my God. And I got the job, and that was 17 years ago. And now, you know, I make a 6-figure salary, and I'm a tenured assistant professor and stuff like that. And it's like Jake Roberts made that happen.
Wow.
You know?
There you go.
Because I don't know what I would have said if that promo didn't come up in my head at that point. I don't know what I would have said. You know, and it's like when I told Jake Roberts that story, he was like, get out of here. I'm like, yeah, man. He goes, so you owe me everything. And I'm like, yeah, I absolutely do. You know? So I would say like top three. Yeah, Roberts for me, another guy. Roddy Piper is another guy. Christopher Daniels. These are guys that never got like really like the world title runs that they deserved, but they didn't need them, you know? So it's just like Jake Roberts. Could you imagine wrestling without the DDT?
No.
I can't. Everybody does it now.
Yeah.
Everybody. It's everyone's setup move. It's the move that like turns the tide.
Right.
It's just a common move now where he made it. That was his finishing
But it was
move.
like
Yeah,
it was
it's
his
true.
thing. Yeah. I mean, he made it a staple of wrestling.
And to like, you know, I mean, I could think of like Raven obviously used it the same way that Jake used it. Arn Anderson had a beautiful DDT, like when he wasn't using the spine buster, but like everyone else uses it as like a setup move, but it's just like if done properly, it's still an effective finisher. So yeah, like those are three matches that really like stick out to me. Those are guys that like really stick out to me.
Sure.
Yeah, man.
Wow. I will say so Bret Hart is number one for me. Period. Like if I can meet Bret Hart, like that would be it. Like he is as a kid, I knew, you know, my dad, I would watch it with my dad, and I knew it was a performance, but if he lost, I like my day was like,
oh yeah.
That was it.
Yeah.
That was it.
I'm a huge fan of Bret Hart's work too. You know, just super clean, and having read his books and stuff, I should have interviewed Bret Hart probably like 5 or 6 times. His assistant Marcy and I have communicated. I don't know if she's still his assistant, but like we've communicated so many times over the past 20 years, and it's just like every time where it's just like, okay, we're doing it today. Oh, well, Bret can't do it. Blah, blah, blah. So it's happened like 4 or 5 times to the point where I'm just like, okay, it's never gonna happen, you know. But yeah, like I'm super, like I'm totally like I respect his work. I respect like little things that he says, because like if you read his book, I don't know if you've read his last book, but he said things along the lines of like he did not like to wrestle Chris Benoit and Ric Flair because of those chops. And he said like those chops go against like everything that like pro wrestling is supposed to be, because like nothing that you do in the ring is supposed to like legitimately hurt. It's supposed to look like it hurts,
right? You
but it's not
magic.
like. Yep, and like stuff like that, just like it changes like the original like motif of like what they do, which is it's like you nailed it, you know, Dave. It's magic, you know. So I totally respect the older class of wrestlers, because like Bret Hart's a part of the new generation and stuff like that in WWE, but he's a throwback because of his dad.
He's
you know,
been around,
totally.
He's been around since the late '80s, though, right? Like, I mean, that's like a
Well, Bret Hart. I mean, Bret Hart was in 80, you know. So yeah, man,
crazy, and like he's still going, right? Like, I mean.
Well, no, he can't. He can't wrestle right now.
Yeah, no, he can't wrestle anymore. But like,
okay, I haven't seen him recently.
He's still.
I mean, like
he consults, and he's on a WWE Legends deal and stuff like that, and he writes his columns and things like that. Like he's very much. He still watches people.
No, he can't take any bumps.
No,
he can't. He can't take any bumps.
Yeah, like if you saw his last match with Vince McMahon,
he took no bumps.
Ooh,
yeah. Okay. He couldn't take a bump.
Yeah,
you know, Goldberg completely like just destroyed him. That super kick at like Super Bowl, like I think it was 99 or 2000. Just changed Bret Hart's
Starcade.
Like
I thought it was in
Starcade.
Yeah, okay.
It was either Starcade or Super Bowl. And then I mean, they were counting on Bret Hart to like be the new leader of Vince Russo's version of the NWO, and then Bret Hart got hurt, and then Goldberg got hurt, and the whole company fell apart. But yeah, man, I have a ton of respect for what Bret Hart's done for pro wrestling. Sure.
I've never been so mad in wrestling ever in my life than I was for WrestleMania 12 Iron Man match. Great match.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah,
but
so good.
You know, Bret lost, so that was my like. You know, I still wanted him to win. I wanted him to win every single match ever. Like I didn't want him to lose ever. And that I was not. I respect Shawn Michaels, and I like Shawn Michaels now in hindsight. But you know, as a kid, hated Shawn Michaels. I hated Shawn Michaels big time. Yeah, because he beat Bret Hart. Not because he has a bad attitude, because I didn't know he had bad attitude back then. You didn't know behind the scenes. It was still. Yeah, I was all about Bret Hart. So I was Team Canada, even though I'm from the USA.
Sure. I mean, how could you not be?
Yeah.
How could you not be? Like, because Owen was so much fun to watch. Brian Pillman was so goddamn awesome. You know, and then Davey Boy Smith, it was just a powerhouse. And then like Neidhart with the laugh and the charisma and stuff like that, like the perfect like heavy to have in your corner. You know, like the Hart Foundation was something like totally special. You know, so
well, I'll just say Bret Hart. Triple H, huge Triple H fan, big Triple H fan. He's second to me. And Stone Cold, even I loved him as the ringmaster. Me and Kevin Owens.
Oh yeah,
me. We're the only ones who liked him as the ringmaster. I loved Steve Austin, still do.
He was great in WCW. He was great in ECW. Like he was great in Mid South. He was great with Jerry Jarrett. Like I mean, that's the thing. Like so many people, like when he came to the WWE, so many people were like, who is this guy? And it's like, he was around for 10 years before that, you know, just working on his craft, and people knew how good he was, and he just needed the right, you know, thing. It's like what's going on with LA Knight right now, you know, like
don't get me started with LA Knight. Yes.
I mean, he's been good for a really long time. And, you know, people are just starting to catch on to how good he was and is, you know, so.
Yeah. Well, I can't speak to any backstage stuff because obviously I'm not there. I don't know, but LA Knight, I mean, he deserves a run. He deserves it now, and hopefully, I mean, he's so good that people don't even realize he was TNA champion.
Right? I have my son. I have my 3-year-old son running around the house telling my wife, "Dummy, yeah," you know. So it's like, like I love him. He's great. He was great. He was great as Eli Drake. You know, like
I'd
Oh,
have
so
to say,
good.
if I could just weigh in on the conversation. Macho Man, of course, the GOAT. Booker T, five-time,
Booker T, love Booker T. Yeah.
Absolutely.
five-time,
Yep.
five-time,
Mhm.
five-time WCW champ.
I
And,
may or may have not tried to spin a Rooney on the floor myself.
Nice.
I'm not
That's
as
awesome.
I'm not as I don't know if I could do that, but him and Jericho.
Yeah, I was gonna say Jericho for me. Jericho for me definitely belongs like top 5. Like, and the thing is, as far as like people go, like DDP, I love what DDP is all about because I mean he was dyslexic, and he went from like organizing like parties and raves in New Jersey to like now he's like this yoga instructor and he's a best-selling author and like
He saved Jake the
he
Snake. didn't
saved out. He saved a bunch of people.
Got home.
Like yeah. More what's it called? Big Bill in AEW now is like the animal that he is because like DDP was like, yo, listen,
That's right.
if I teach you yoga and teach you how to take care of yourself, Kevin Nash, so many people. But like Jericho, I love what Jericho is all about. Jericho is a rock star.
Yes.
He is an actor. Did you guys see Terrifier 2? Like he's in
No.
Terrifier 2 at the end.
It's going
Oh
on
my
list.
God.
Is it on Netflix?
He-
I'll watch it tonight.
It's on Vudu. You can watch it for
Oh,
free.
yeah, I got
Like
it,
if you
I got
download. Yeah, he's the like the security guard in the mental institution at the end. And oh my God, he's probably got like 10 lines, but they're great.
Yeah.
And he's a best-selling author. He's a rock star. He's a wrestler.
Yeah.
He's an actor. He like wants to get into the comic book industry. He's a podcaster. Like it's just like people like that I really gravitate towards. So yeah, man, Jericho's a great pick.
He's the GOAT. He's the GOAT. Well, on that note, we want to thank you for coming on again. This has been great. Before you go, though, anything you want to promote?
Yeah, absolutely. So like I won't shill too much of my
no,
legacy
sure,
comic
please.
stuff, but what I will do is I'll keep it wrestling oriented, and we have the next issue of The Job coming out in the next couple of weeks. If you guys don't know what The Job is a pro wrestling comic that is about Dan Dero. He is the worst pro wrestler in the world. He's a jobber. He loses every match. But he's got a hot wife and he's got a hot car, and everyone's like, how does that happen? And the answer is simple. Him and his hot wife rob banks together. So it's kind of got this like Bonnie and Clyde meets like Two Broke Girls, Mike and Molly meets like Point Break and like Heat with like Mickey Rourke's The Wrestler mixed in. It's so much fun. Issues 0 and 1 are available on legacycomics.com right now. Issue 2 is coming out in the next couple of weeks. And then we just announced today, actually, on our website, we're doing another wrestling book called The Bad Guy. That's written and illustrated by Gordon Holmes. He's the super talented guy that like I basically like discovered. I feel like Paul Heyman sometimes in the comic book industry. Like I just find these people and give them opportunities and stuff. But it's about this pro wrestler that's a heel, and he's in like basically like the biggest match of his career while like this crazy life altering situation is going on at the same exact time. So it's just like we often forget that pro wrestlers are people, that they have families, that they have wives, that they have children, and that these things matter in their lives. So it's a story of this guy that like the fans hate. They throw shit at him when he's in the ring and stuff, and he's having this match that's like super important for his career. And I love the duality of this comic because it's like it's going from like him taking like a super kick to him in the doctor's office with his wife, and it just keeps bouncing back and forth, and by the end of the comic you kind of like realize that like this guy's a piece of shit on TV, but like there's so much more going on in his life. Like the first time I read the script, I was just super impressed by it. And Gordon is just like a super talented guy. So like that's available on the Legacy Comics website. So if you love Wrestlequest and you love the story of Wrestlequest, Legacy Comics definitely has some like really cool wrestling books available too. And not to make it all Legacy Comics oriented, I'm just gonna revert one more time and say that like I own over 4,000 games. I've voice acted in over 25. And with all of that being said, I could play pretty much anything that I want tonight, and I'm going to play WrestleQuest. I've done VO on a ton of games, and I'll say like the VO that I'm like the most proud of is the stuff that I've done on WrestleQuest. And I don't say that as an exaggeration or anything. Like this game, if you guys give this game a shot, like you will be super impressed with the amount of depth and just attention to detail and fun. It's an RPG for all of us that are in our late 30s and 40s that are just looking to like rediscover the way that like these games used to make us feel. You know, so yeah.
All right. Well, if you want to pick up Wrestlequest, and we think you should, it is out now on PS4, PS5, Xbox One, Xbox Series S and X, Nintendo Switch, Steam, and the Netflix gaming platform. And on that note, that is episode 372 in the books, folks. And we want to thank you guys for listening to the show, for liking, commenting, and doing all the good stuff that you guys do. If you want to interact with us, and we know that you do, you can find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and Threads at Rated G for Gamers. So, please listen, like, rate, review, and subscribe. And as always,
Keep gaming.